Good evening. Monday night, and the season has finally come to an end. The Colts managed to put us out of our misery once again. No Philip Rivers going into next year. We've missed the playoffs. Quarterback problems. Is this 2022 all over again? No. Is it 2023 all over again? No. 2024? No. 2025? Yes. Well, we're in 2026 now, but the season started in 2025 and ended in 2025 for the Indianapolis Colts. Nathan will be joining us in a minute. And potentially Robbie's going to be joining us if he manages to get home from football. And as per the name tag there, Mediocre City. As from what I can gather, I've not seen Carly's presser yet. I was just watching Shane's, but from obviously very reliable sources and anyone on the Colts media spectrum, it looks like that Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen are going to be retained going into 2026-2027 season. Shane Steichen, the man who is 2-10 against the Texans. Chris Ballard, who has whiffed massively at the quarterback position. Realize how tired I look. And that's not just because of the Colts. But the end of the season has been a big disappointment. The second half of the season, especially, we can break it down. I'll deep dive some stuff, like I say, when Nathan gets on, just so we can get it out. But what's tough for Colts fans, and we have to speak relatively right, because there's other franchises out there who are having a bad time and a bad time throughout the season. So this does come from a privileged position, but it's the going round in circles thing that is just killer. There seems to be nobody in charge, if that's the right way to discover it. I can't speak. The right way to word it. Keep saying no, but it's just the same old story. How are we here again when it looked like we was actually going somewhere? We found a quarterback we liked who was working well with our head coach, and then only God knows what happened on that bye week to just crush us into oblivion. Obviously, the fractured fibula and broken and torn Achilles for Daniel doesn't help things, but the NFL is it's a violent sport. I believe Ed said this on our last show. It's a violent sport, and it's almost expected that you're going to get injuries. Granted, you don't think you're going to get compound injuries where whilst your QB1 is hurt, your QB2 is also hurt, and you call up 44-year-old Philip Rivers, and God, we've got to be a retirement home for him to play out a little, extended fantasy of playing in the NFL. But come on, this is not what serious franchises do. And again, a 500 season, losing 7 straight, and we are told that this is good enough. This is the standard. This is acceptable, because run it back, because it's worked so well the past 7 years. Let's run it back. And we just find ourselves asking the same questions. That who's going to be our quarterback next year, and how's it going to look? fair play to the fans who showed up in Houston to watch. Fair play to those who watched fully. I watched one drive and just felt dejected with the team because it turns out we couldn't even beat the Texans' backups. Like, the man who couldn't script a game plan to beat the Texans' backups is taking us into next season as our head coach. Like, it's just really not how you would run. Like, you got to ask yourself, how would you run a business? If you had an elite business and you was trying to run it, and you had your CEO at the top, and he had underperformed for 8 years, not strengthened anything. In fact, things have gotten worse potentially. He's spent a lot of capital, had loads of chances, and every time you go into your yearly review, your one-on-one interview with your CEO of your company, and you're trying to make it somewhere, and you say, okay, explain to me why we haven't outperformed last quarter since 2018. And his answer is, oh, well, it wasn't good enough. We had a couple of workers ill. But next year we won't. And then it happens again. At some point you say to yourself, man, this guy is not the guy. And because the GM pool is such a small place, these, like the quarterback, there's only 32 GMs. There's always going to be someone better. And I think it's, thanks to everyone for joining tonight. I'll stop ranting for a minute. Thanks to everyone for joining tonight, Colts fans and all. This is going to be a Colts show tonight, because we'll do a playoff show. We'll do a playoff special, potentially next week or Thursday, and we'll get some guests on to help us with that. But tonight is Colts, because, as you know, we are pathetically mediocre. And I was just talking about the man who embodies that more than anyone in the world, and that's Chris Ballard. So it's okay to admit that I think there are floor people and there are ceiling people. There are people you bring in to raise the floor and the people you bring in to raise the ceiling. Chris Ballard is a floor GM. You bring him in when things are looking shaky, he tightens it up, he gets it flat, and a bit like Frank Reich. And I don't say this disrespectingly, I don't say it demeaningly, if that's the right word, if that's even a word. But I think it's okay to say he's fine, But I think it's also okay for fans who have been, I suppose, fans who have been around a long time. Just had to think of what I was looking for there. But it's okay for them to know that this isn't the standard and want more. And I think Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, in my eyes, were on borrowed time at the start of this year. So how we get to next season and we're giving this guy the keys to the draft and the keys to the team for next season as well, then what are we doing? I regularly put in our group chat, I know for a fact we're never getting Curt Cignetti. Mainly because he's got a massive contract at IU, and why would he leave? But for me, it's about having someone in who demands more than just the floor. And to explain why he's excited for next season, joining us is Nathan.
Hello. Sorry I'm late. How are you?
It's all right. You're not late. I was just going on a ranting monologue about. I mean, my initial thoughts, and after I'd managed to calm myself down a bit about the retaining of Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen, is what are we doing here?
Well, it begs the question, doesn't it? And I think that the happiest people in the room are probably the New York Jets at the prospect of what they might get.
They could have the one round 2 pick next year.
Literally, right? And it's like there's so many ways to cover it, but this team yet again lost out. They lost when it mattered. This head coach yet again couldn't beat the division rival. Couldn't beat. And okay, I think it's important for context to say that the Houston Texans have what could be described as a historic defense right now. First in many categories. And for the first half, Riley Leonard looked really good against them. And then they put their second and third string in, and we still lost. It seriously begs the question of, well, I guess you may have already covered it, right? I was downstairs, so I didn't see it. But how has Carly genuinely looked at this and gone, this is good, this is progress? Because I've only managed to watch about 5 minutes of her press conference, right? I'm going to watch it later on tonight. But Stephen Holder kind of asks her, what, are you basing this decision purely off the adversity of this year? Or are you looking back at 9 years of nothing, with Chris Ballard? And it's just, I don't really know how to. I mean, I think next year is going to be worse. I'll tell you that. They're going to roll out Daniel Jones coming off the back of, a major injury. We've seen with Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers how that can impact the player when they're rushed back. Yeah. And many of these core veteran players who are just simply not good enough and go disappearing in key moments are just going to be another year older.
Mm-hmm. So we'll break it down into 3 parts. I think we can break it down into the season as a whole, Andy Oiner, Chris Ballard, and Shane Steichen as 3 different parts. We'll leave stuff like Lou Anarumo, defense players specifically for the off season, because we got a lot of time to kill because we're not drafting in the first round.
Yeah.
But so let's start then, because you segued us nicely. Carly and the season as a whole. Who kicked a black cat in Germany? That's what I want to know. It all started with your friend, wasn't it? Getting hit by a taxi. So
yeah,
should we blame on him?
For any viewers or listeners too, that is a true story.
Yeah. He's a Pittsburgh. He's a Pittsburgh fan, right?
He's a Pittsburgh fan.
Yeah, so we can blame him. It's all his fault. But
I mean, even the funny side of that, though, right? The kind of the mythical side of me thinks that is that a part of it? This team and this roster are so they're so comforted by being mediocre, right? It's in this team's DNA. This is Ballard's culture. You don't have to win when it matters. You don't have to win, key games because I'm going to pay you anyway. And we'll get on to that. But I think that definitely plays a part in it. The core of this roster's mentality is it doesn't matter if we start losing. And that's exactly what happened. I think they thought the job was done at 8-2. And,
Yeah.
you know, many of the statistics stated that it would be. We were, 91% chance to make the playoffs at 8-2?
Yeah.
This team just switched off, and the coaches switched off with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, man, I was saying just before you come, it's just so dejecting. I sound honestly, I sounded like I was going on a depressed rant and that everything was the worst thing in the world. But I couldn't watch the Texans game because, God, like Bill Polian and even like Jim Irsay, God rest his soul, would be turning in his grave if a Texans team could ever come to, well, we played there, but ever come to T.Y. Hilton Stadium and play their third strings on the last game of the season, and they want to pretend they're winning for Jim. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
Like, Jim Irsay, for all his quirks, all his ups and his downs, and I think this maybe has a bit to do with the keeping of Chris Ballard, because he wasn't scared of what the media thought. He wasn't scared of what anyone thought. It was his team. It was his family. And if that was, Shane and Chris would have been gone now. Do you know what I mean? Like, he did it to Frank Reich, gone now. Peyton, it come back to bite us because he went on to win a Super Bowl with Denver, but Peyton Manning, no, we can't take the risk. You're gone. And it wasn't just a cold, cowardly billionaire like Jerry Jones, or Robert Kraft. Andrew Luck, you need the money to retire. There you are. You've sorted us out. We'll sort you out. It sickened me seeing, and fair play to the Texans, right? This is not a dig on them. They've gone and got a serious head coach who's got rid of a B-Tech quarterback, got some decent defense in, and they've sorted it out. So this isn't a dig on them, but I never thought I'd see the day the Texans could play their second and third stringers against us on the last game of the season. And I think, sorry, I'll get to my point. I think the reason Carly Irsay might not be firing Chris Ballard is because she's seen some of the media cartoon character. I can't say it. Essentially, cartoon villain, making Jim Irsay a cartoon villain or a pantomime villain, and maybe that's just in her mind a bit. That's she's trying to be the sensible, a responsible owner because she knows the spotlight is ever increasing on her as an owner.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we all knew that this decision was one she'd have to make, right? Even we were saying it from week one.
Yeah.
I think we all thought that, and have thought now for 4 seasons in a row, that it's playoff or bust for Ballard and this kind of regime. And every year he just survives it. In the first few minutes of her press conference, I was watching her say that she has full faith in Chris and Shane's ability to turn this around, and she has it requires the utmost urgency. And you think, well, there's 2 kind of fundamental issues with that. Ballard's been here for 9 years, and since 2020 we have done nothing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we've had some interesting wins and stuff. Like not making the playoffs for 5 years now is just simply not good enough as a GM. Look at Atlanta today. They've sacked the GM and the coach, right? Because they demand different. Shane Steichen, two wins, 11 losses against divisional opponents, 7 wins, 22 losses against teams with a better record than 500. 22 losses in 3 years. So we literally, the top of our tower state, you have a general manager saying, it doesn't matter if we don't do it because I'm safe and I'll make all of you safe. And we have our coach who goes, when it matters, I'm just going to lose the game anyway, and I know my job's safe. So I just don't get it, and it's not as simple as retaining this core. We might lose, Buckner's had a very serious injury. Javarius Ward is openly talking about retiring.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like you can keep Pierce and Jones without losing, Pittman, etc., who's a Ballard guy. A big question I'd like to ask you is, if you're Jonathan Taylor right now, why the hell do you stay? Why?
You don't. You don't. It's as simple as that for me. And oh man, it hurt. And I remember putting in our WhatsApp group earlier today, and I watched Michael Pittman's locker room press conference talk after the Texans game. And we can segue to Chris Ballard, because I think it's okay for me to say, with Jim and his health deterioration, it's probably been a struggle for Carly and Kalen and Casey. So I'm okay with them. The Ursays have been fantastic to the Colts. Maybe not to Baltimore Colts, but to Indianapolis Colts have been fantastic. So I have got a lot of time for him. So to segue to Chris Ballard, I want him, or I want someone to ask, maybe Zach Hicks, friend of the show, Zach Hicks, because we can say that now, can get this question to him, someone to get this question to him. Why do you think it's acceptable that you have failed your players? Because Michael Pittman just looked dead inside. And he's great. My player comp for him coming out of the draft was Mike Evans. Honestly, I love Pittman. I think he's great, and we failed him. We've not given him a quarterback. Jonathan Taylor, I mean, we left him on an island, essentially, because we didn't want to pay a backup running back. We didn't want to pay Hines. We didn't want to pay Moss. We got in someone who couldn't catch a ball on 4th and 1, which Shane Steichen decided to take out Jonathan Taylor on a 4th and 1 on a win and go home game. But to stick it with Chris Ballard, I want someone to ask him why he thinks it's acceptable to fail the players. Because for us, right, we're fans. We love this. We can watch it. We will watch it. Players come and go. But for players, especially the way the American system's designed, it's their life, right? From primary school or elementary school, it's their life. And they sacrifice everything to make it to the league. And, for us, the dream for you, Nathan, would be playing for Newcastle. Like for me, it'd be playing for Arsenal, Ed, Everton, Robbie, West Ham, etc. It's about playing for a team. For a player, it's about getting to the league. And, Pittman's built a home in Indiana. He's got a farm. He's got a family. He's built a life here. And he's meant to be our wide receiver 1. And we've gone, we're not giving you a quarterback. And Chris Ballard, like you say, that's okay. And, Quentin Nelson, we took an offensive line that in 2018 was the most revered offensive line in football. Like anyone would have said, give me the Colts offensive line. And we're like, yeah, whatever. We'll draft a couple of guys, and we've got a couple of good players on there. But it's the offensive line. It's not protected the quarterback. And I realise I'm going on a bit, but just, do you know what I mean? Like, these are players who, the linebacker position, are you shitting me? Zaire Franklin's still in the fucking building. Like, are you shitting me? Come on. And I'm just like, yeah. So someone get the question, Chris Ballard, after this big rant of mine. You have failed the players. It's not even a question. Just tell him he has failed.
What I'm really interested to see is, which I'm sure all Colts fans are, I think we're all going to be chomping at the bit for Ballard's press conference.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see if he's the same as he was 4 months ago. You know, Mr. Cocky, Mr. Patronising, you know, condescending, making journalists feel this small. Because I guarantee you, he's going to roll out with his little yogurt drink and his hat on and blame it all on injuries. It's not going to be his fault, right? Yeah. It's not going to be the fact that this defensive front seven is absolutely atrocious. Another game yesterday, Harrison, where we didn't generate a pressure.
One.
Not one pressure was generated by this front seven, right? And I think, like, I've reflected on that when I saw that stat, because, you know, when we're in the moment and you're watching your secondary just get blown up, I think it's really easy to become emotional about it and kind of say, oh, you know, screw Lou, or, you know, get Lou out of town. This defense is terrible. But this Lou Anarumo system is designed for secondary play. But you just can't run this system with how bad that front seven is. You know, I'm going to make a direct comparison to the 49ers too, which I think is really easy. You know, everyone's been doing that today. But again, his neglect of the quarterback position left us in a position where we have to bring out a 44-year-old, you know, off the sofa. That's how bad the quarterback room was. You know, to then bench him for Riley Leonard on week, like, what is going on? And again, this is, look, I said this in the group chat, right? And I think this is my biggest takeaway from the last 5 years, but definitely this year more than ever. We just aren't a very serious football team. Like, and it's become even more clear in the last 24 hours. We have brand new ownership who have viewed what's happened this year as okay. And I've you know, like James Boyd, right? Definitely one of our favorite journalists on this show. He had a tweet earlier asking for questions. You know, what questions would you ask Carly? And my question was, like, how can she, like what would her advice be to fans like us who have to endure this and have endured it for another season and potentially another season after that? Like, are they even going to fill the stadium next year?
We couldn't even fill it this year, really.
But who's paying for this product next year? You know? And I'm talking now, I think if Jones comes back and, you know, he lights up camp and, you know, they do a little bit in free agency. How, I don't know, because we don't have the cap to do it. Then maybe the hype builds again and people are thinking, oh, you know, can we do it again? But ultimately, you look at the schedule, and I really can't wait for schedule release day, because this show is going to be fantastic, because I think we can take the blue tinted glasses off now and say, well, we know we're not going to win that game because that team's good. And this is professional sport. How shit is that?
Not even good, just that team's average.
Yeah. That team is above average, meaning that Shane Steichen will not be able to beat them. It's just that simple.
Oh, my God. Last bit on Chris Ballard then before we move on to my favourite person in the world. But, I mean, Chris Ballard is the person, right, who I've wanted to defend for so long because he wasn't Ryan Grigson. And, you know, I gave him every opportunity to go, I told you Harrison was right. And every time he's come out and proved them stupid, like, just clickbait journalist Twitter accounts that put up, this is the worst GM since blah, 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 blah. And every time he proves them right, and I'm like, this man is making it so I can't even argue with a fucking bot on Twitter, like, because he's proving the bot right. And it's just like the failure for me, mate. And I think this is why it's a top-down program. After everything that happened at the end of last year, Zaire Franklin should have been gone. Nothing personal, but it's like having a massive argument with your partner or whatever. You have a massive argument and then you just stay. It's like, no, you should have gone. It was dead.
Mm.
And this man is celebrating a tackle for they've got a 6-yard gain. He's celebrating a tackle and with 3 scores down.
Mm.
And he's still on the team. Jermaine Pratt's come in and been a better linebacker than him.
But it goes back to the point, doesn't it? We're just not a very serious team. Like, he's been allowed to play like that. And those outcomes and those results in that team with this culture, in my opinion, is totally fine. Like, not to come in on your point, right? But Mike Chapp asked Carly just now, and again, I've only watched 5 minutes, right? He asked her, is it truly playoffs or bust for Chris and Shane next year? She didn't say it was. She just said, oh, yeah, we need to win more of the close games. So wait a second. We're totally fine with no playoffs again. That would be deemed to, what if we win some close games? Oh, what if we're 9 and fucking 8 instead of 8 and 9?
Mm-hmm.
Or 7 and 9. You know what I mean? And and good luck catching up with the AFC. Again, we're a team that's getting older, and the AFC is just getting better.
Yeah. So let's move on to just a man who's done in my books. I seriously, I don't get how. If I hear the words, it starts with me in the year 2026, I'm going to go insane. I'm going to be in a mental hospital. It's going to be like, Shane Steichen can't hurt you. And then I'm just going to hear over a tannoy in a mental hospital. It starts with me.
Mm.
He couldn't beat the Texans backups. Like, what? We used to have Tony Dungy. Do you know what I mean? Even Coach Pagano, I have a lot more respect for than this fucking bum. And and he was responsible for the 4th and 2 fucking play call against the fucking Patriots. The worst call in history of mankind. And Shane Steichen has somehow managed to lower that fucking bar. And I think it started. The first straw was, like I say, taking Jonathan Taylor off the field on 4th and 1 against the Texans in a winning game. What fucking head coach does that? Pete Carroll does that in the Super Bowl and fucking loses it. He started Richardson, bench Richardson, started Richardson, put Joey Flacco in, take Richardson out. He just doesn't like Anthony Richardson, but that's the quarterback we're going to take. Like you say, what was it against plus 500 teams?
7 wins, 22 losses in 3 years.
Mate, this guy is the Ruben Amorim of the NFL, and we're sticking with him. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I just don't. His play calling this season has been bailed out by a shit flag against Denver and Jonathan Taylor. Everyone who's he went 9-8 with Gardner Minshew. No, Jonathan Taylor went 9-8 with Gardner Minshew, not Shane Steichen. Let's take this back. It's Jonathan Taylor running this team, and Shane Steichen, in my eyes, got jealous because you don't want to say it like this, right? This is so hyperbole, but to try and put it the right way and not just an emotional fan way. I feel Shane Steichen wanted to prove it was him. It was him. He's the guy. I'm the guy. I'm making this work. This is me. And it backfired fucking massively. And then Daniel Jones with a fractured fibula. Again, in my own opinion, you have to protect players from themselves because they know it's a very finite amount of games they get, and they want to play no matter what. But Shane Steichen needed to be the adult in the room and say, Daniel, we would rather shut you down now and have you either for the end of the season and we try and win 3 or 4 games at the end of the season, or you come back next year 100%. I have less of a problem with that. But what he's done is gone, oh, no, you've got a fractured fibula. Let's keep fucking playing you. We're going to go pass heavy, not rely on Jonathan Taylor and Quentin Nelson. Go pass heavy. Watch you get sacked 6 times. Watch you get sacked again. Another couple of QB hits. And we're just going to break your leg. Fuck it. It's just neglect. And he's just not a leader, mate. He's just not a leader. Like I said so many times, I'll let you come in now so then we can actually get to the end of the show. I want a serious head coach. I want someone who demands more, demands excellence, demands. You walk in a room and you just shut up. You shut up and listen. Shane Steichen walks in a room and nobody fucking cares.
Yeah, and I'm probably sounding a bit of a broken record, but like, do you think he genuinely feared for his job over the last 24 hours?
No.
Exactly, and it's because the new. Well, in hindsight, we now know that the news broke 2 hours after the game that they were safe, and the press conferences have obviously become a running joke, and I honestly think that Shane is protected by how much nobody really cares about the Colts, because I think people who are in like really professional outfits and great cultures and in organizations that are actually built to win know that this team isn't. They know we're not. And you listen to most kind of, I'm talking NFL wide media outlets here, podcasts, daytime talk shows. Shane Steichen comes up and everyone's like, oh yeah, he's this offensive genius. He's such a good head coach. And then it's like, what I want them to talk about is the 7-22 stat line and the 2-11 stat line. Talk about that from a coaching perspective. Like, no disrespect to Shane, but like, who cares if he drew up a nice play? Like, so does Clint Kubiak, so does
Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, like most offensive coordinators in this league have some pretty plays in their playbook. That's what they're hired for, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, it's just so frustrating.
Can I Englishify this? Because I could relate to this. And I'm going to bring him up just for you, Nathan, but it's the Unai Emery thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Unai Emery thing. And those Americans who don't watch soccer or anyone who doesn't know, Unai Emery used to be the coach of Arsenal, is now the coach of Aston Villa, and he's doing a good job. He's not a bad coach. But when he was at Arsenal, I remember the bottom of the league team getting 20 shots off against us and watching, your bottom feeder teams, your Titans, your Raiders and stuff, what would be classed as this year, dominating the ball. You still win the game, but everyone's going, oh, he's amazing. He just needs more time. You're going, no, he doesn't. Get him out. The metrics are terrible. And I think that's it with Shane. He's got this thing where maybe because he comes from that Sirianni tree of coaching and that Eagles team, that just because he was the offensive coordinator, but correct me if I'm wrong here, Nathan, I think you know better, but they didn't win the Super Bowl with him as the offensive coordinator.
I think let me have a look. 2018. So no, they would have lost it because he came to us in 2022, didn't he? So yeah, they would have lost that Super Bowl. Yeah. Well, yeah, they would have lost one of the Super Bowls they got to. Yeah, just double checking if he actually has one. I don't think he does because I think we'd hear about it.
Yeah.
They lost 38-35 to Kansas City in that Super Bowl. Yeah.
Like, is he an offensive genius, or was he just in the right place at the right time? And I don't say that demeaningly. Football is so much about just the right place, the right time. You were the right guy. Right now, him and Ballard are the wrong guys, and not necessarily not because they're bad, because I don't think they're terrible. This is the thing where people often get confused. This is the thing where people get confused from the outside, looking in at Colts fans, going, "Oh, well, you finished 9-8. You had a 9-9. You had a 500 record. You know, you're not terrible and stuff." And it's like, yeah, but there's just so much more wrong with the franchise than it seems, and we need someone to get us out of this rut. We need someone powerful in as GM. I want someone from the outside, someone who's going to come in and rip it up and start again, because that's where we're at. You know, I'll let you finish, but you say all the time, God, you say it all the time, and it's like, what's the point?
Yeah. Like yesterday, right? I think the best way to, capitalize on that kind of flippant comment is yesterday, the Colts' first team offense and first team defense could not beat the third string of the Houston Texans. Let's be honest, the Texans were in a completely meaningless football game.
Yeah.
This team could not win it. And I think we'll get more into this as the playoffs resume and the off season fast approaches. But I don't think when we lose football games, Shane Steichen's in the locker room making people want to cry, screaming at people, telling them how bad of a job they've done, how much they messed up. He's probably quite literally high-fiving them all, going, "Yeah, it starts with me, guys. It starts with me. This is on me. I need to be better. I need to be better." And I put it in the group yesterday, didn't I? That it would have been very Colts again. This is whoever was watching the show. You're probably gonna get bored of my brand in this year, and that's that we just aren't a very serious team. If we won yesterday, I guarantee you they would have posted one of those locker room videos where everybody's hyped up. Everybody, "Oh, well done, guys. This is brilliant. This is brilliant."
Strong, yeah.
What's brilliant about it? It was a meaningless game, and yeah, it's fascinating how ownership have just deemed this okay.
Yeah.
And again, Robbie made an excellent point. We currently have the third longest playoff drought in the NFL. That's what Ballard's record is. All right, we've been to the playoffs twice and we have one win.
It's fucking nothing.
Who cares?
It's nothing, mate. Like, especially because you have the wild card weekend now. Like, we needed 3 wins out of 8 to make the playoffs.
Well, we could have arguably have got in with 2, right?
Yeah,
like the Steelers did. Well, no, they won the division, didn't they? But yeah, I think 3 wins would have got us in for sure.
If we split the divisional games, we could have got in with 2 wins.
Yeah, man. We, again, we'll talk about this on another episode. Yeah. We are so far away from this division. Like, how anybody believes that this team's going to win the AFC South in the next 3 to 5 years, they must be living on a different planet, because what the Jags and the Texans have done to their rosters, with their coaching, with their general management, with their direction, it is proper professional football teams. We just simply aren't it. And let me tell you now, the Titans are going to turn it around, right? Cam Ward looks good. Mm-hmm. They need to rebuild. Of course they do. They need to get a good head coach to help him out. we're gonna be we're done. Like, and once they blow it up next year when it doesn't work, we're done even more because we don't have a first round draft pick. Yeah, we should probably leave it on a positive note, and that's that. At some point this week, we get to watch Ballard try and explain this.
Yeah, I can find a positive note to leave it on. Is what was the point of picking up Philip Rivers instead of just rolling with Riley Leonard? But we don't develop quarterbacks nowadays.
Well, actually, one serious positive note
is
Alec Pierce leads the league again 2 years in a row for yards per catch, and he has the I think he's beaten Deshaun Jackson's record of getting 1,000 yards in 42 catches. Again. Insane player. And fair play to AP yesterday. The only receiver on this Colts football team who genuinely stepped up. Mm-hmm. The others looked completely redundant. Yeah. And that this guy needs to get paid, and he needs to be treated as a wide receiver one. He's been one of the only players this year to prove it.
Mm-hmm. And you're right. I'll be quick, I promise, but you just reminded me of a point I wanted to bring up about Shane Steichen. Not coming out and calling that ejection for what it fucking is, which is just the referee wanting to impose himself on the game. You know, coming out going, oh, well, you know, maybe we know the rules, you know. Come out and defend your fucking player.
Yeah.
Come out and defend him. Like, it you know, it starts with me. Like, what are you going on about? Come out and defend your player for a call that was just factually wrong, and a referee who, you know, I'd be coming out. It's the last game of the season. What they're going to do? Suspend you for one game next year? I'd be coming out and asking to him. He needs to be investigated. What are we doing, Goodell? But
I just think it's a different sport, man, isn't it? Like, you know, I think in soccer, you know, we would get managers going after refs. You know, Arteta loves doing that, doesn't he? But it's just not really a thing in American football, is it? But very good point, mate. Yeah, but
we've got plenty of time to talk about that. So
yeah.
So yeah, that's been it for this show. It's been a bit of a downer, but you know, it feels like 2021 all over again. So I'm all of a sudden not 30 years old, so maybe life's a bit brighter. Thanks for everyone joining and watching us. Join us later in the week when I'm sure we'll get more reaction, and we might even try to get a guest on, you know, for a serious team like the Texans or the Jags. And also we'll find out what planet I'm living on, because obviously the Colts are going 17-9 next year. See you all later.